You've seen it before, every episode, every season. You know the lines before the characters say them, and yet here you are again, pressing play. Not because there is nothing else to watch, because nothing else feels like this, and somewhere in the back of your mind there is a voice that says you should watch something new, something you haven't memorized, something that might actually surprise you, but you scroll past every recommendation and go right back to the same show, like it is muscle memory, like your hand already knew before your brain decided. And if that is you, the psychology behind it will actually make you feel better about yourself. Because this isn't a flaw. It is a signature. They're the person with a comfort show for every mood. Sad day, that show. Can't sleep, that show. Need background noise while cooking, same show, Season 3, Episode 7. Specifically, they have a system. The friend who has seen The Office 11 times and will absolutely watch it a 12th. The one who puts on the same movie every Christmas like it is a legal requirement. And people say, how can you watch that again? You already know what happens. And they nod, because yeah, that is exactly the point. And here is what nobody tells you. The reason they rewatch has almost nothing to do with the show. It is about what the show does to their nervous system. So let's talk about what is actually happening in your brain. When you press play on something you've already seen, when you watch something new, your brain is working hard. It is tracking characters, predicting outcomes, managing tension. Your amygdala stays activated the entire time, because new means unpredictable. And unpredictable means your brain has to stay on guard, scanning for danger, bracing for the twist, preparing for the thing it didn't see coming. But when you rewatch something familiar, that entire alarm system stands down. Your brain already knows what happens next. No surprises, no tension, no threat assessment running in the background. It is the neurological equivalent of coming home. And a study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that 73% of people who rewatch do it specifically to regulate their emotions, not entertainment. Regulation. And that word, regulation, is the key to understanding everything about this behavior. Because these aren't lazy people. These are people whose nervous systems run hot. They feel everything a little more than the people around them. A day hits harder. Social situations drain faster. Small disappointments land heavier. Not because they're fragile, because their system is running a more detailed simulation of the world than most people's. And after a day of managing all that input, the last thing their brain wants is more unpredictability. It wants to know exactly what happens next. So they press play, and within 30 seconds their shoulders drop. Their breathing slows. Their jaw unclenches, not because anything changed, because their brain recognized where it was and decided it was safe to stop scanning. But here is what is fascinating. There is a second layer that goes deeper than comfort, because when you rewatch, you are not passively consuming. You are doing something your brain can't do the first time through. You catch details you missed, foreshadowing you didn't understand. The way a character pauses before they speak, the music choice you never noticed. Psychologists call it deeper encoding. When the cognitive load of following the plot drops to zero, your brain processes the emotional texture instead. That is why people cry harder on the 5th rewatch than the first. They're not surprised by the sad part. They're sitting with it, letting it land the way it was always designed to. And that is not weakness, that is processing. And here is another layer, because for a lot of these people, the show isn't just a show. It is a relationship. The characters become real, not in a delusional way, in a genuinely therapeutic way. These are people they've spent hundreds of hours with. They know how the characters think, how they'd react, what they'd say. And that predictability creates what psychologists call a parasocial bond, a one-sided relationship where the emotional investment is completely real, even though the other person never existed outside a writer's room. And for someone whose real relationships are complicated or exhausting or unpredictable, that fictional bond is the one connection that never disappoints. The character never cancels, never says the wrong thing, never leaves without explaining why. And here is where it connects to something most people don't want to admit. A lot of people who rewatch compulsively grew up in homes where things were unpredictable. Not always dramatically, sometimes just enough to keep a child's nervous system permanently on alert. never quite sure which version of the house they were walking into. Parents warm one day and distant the next. A household where the mood shifted without warning. An environment where you read the room before you walked into it. And for that kid, the television was the one constant. Same characters, same voices, same ending every single time. And when you grow up in uncertainty, your brain develops a permanent craving for things it can predict, things it can control, things that never change, no matter how many times you come back to them. And that craving doesn't go away when you grow up. It just changes shape, and a familiar show becomes the most reliable relationship they've ever known. The one thing that was always exactly where they left it. But here's the part people don't talk about, because there is a line between comfort and avoidance, and most people who rewatch know exactly where that line is. They've danced on it, because sometimes pressing play isn't about comfort. It is about not being alone with your own thoughts. It is about filling the silence with something so familiar your brain can stop thinking, stop remembering, stop feeling whatever it is been putting off. And the difference between self-soothing and self-numbing is thinner than anyone wants to admit. But here is what the research shows about the people who do this, and it might change how you see yourself. People who rewatch familiar content score significantly higher in emotional self-awareness than people who only consume new media. Because choosing what to rewatch requires you to know what you need. Sad and need warmth, that show. Anxious and need laughter, that one. Lonely and need company, Season 4, Episode 12. They've mapped their entire emotional landscape onto a library of stories. And that level of emotional literacy doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from years of paying attention to what they feel and learning exactly what soothes it. Consumer psychologist Crystal Russell puts it plainly. We return to familiar stories not because we lack options, because we already know what the story will give us. So if you are someone who does this, if the same show has carried you through breakups and bad weeks and sleepless nights and ordinary Tuesdays, here is what I want you to hear. You are not boring. You are not stuck. You are not wasting your time. You found something that makes you feel safe in a world that doesn't always. And you go back to it because your nervous system learned early that predictability is medicine. Not every night needs to be a new experience. Some nights just need to be okay. And you figured out how to make them okay a long time ago. But pay attention to whether you are choosing the comfort or hiding inside it, because the same show that holds you together on a hard night can keep you from sitting with feelings that need to be felt. And you know the difference, and you already know which nights are which. Trust that knowing. If any of this hit home, I genuinely appreciate it if you subscribed. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that join button, because the people who rewatch the same shows aren't avoiding life. They're taking care of themselves in a language their brain learned before they had words for any of it. And there is nothing wrong with a story that never lets you down, especially when you needed one and nobody else showed up.